Welcome to the best game of chess you have never seen before. Before we start, I just want to thank Destructive J Gaming on Twitter for bringing this game to my attention. He said, I would love you to make a YouTube clip out of this, and I'm saying here, no. We're making a full YouTube video out of this because it is such an insane game, and thank you for bringing it to my attention. This game has an outstanding 5 brilliant moves. With the white pieces, we have a legend, David Bronstein, who was, at his peak, #2 in the world, even challenging Michael Botvinnik to a World Chess Championship match in 1951. Opposed to him, you have a local Dutchman, because this tournament was played in Hooghoven in 1997, who was called Richard Vedder, who was almost FM and actually achieved the title of FIDE master 10 years later in 2007. Now this game was played in 1997, way beyond Bronstein's prime. So there's this question, is this young FIDE master gonna overthrow this legendary David Bronstein way past his prime? We shall see. Bronstein opens with d4 and his opponent goes with knight f6. This is a very popular choice of opening so far. Knight f6 is one of the most common replies to d4. c4 played by David Bronstein, and then his opponent goes with e6. I teased you with that g-pawn. e6. This is called the Nimzo-Indian defense. Here, if Bronstein goes knight c3, his opponent wants to play bishop b4, pinning the knight to the king on e1, and eventually trading on c3 to double white's pawns. All those arrows, and Bronstein does the anti-Nimzo-Indian, which does not place the knight on c3. In fact, it delays the knight c3, or it even never happens, to develop on the king's side first, and this bishop has to develop pretty sorely on e7 or bishop b4 with check. His opponent here goes with b6, and b6 changes this to a totally different opening. This is called transposition in openings. Black wants to develop their bishop on the fianchetto on this long diagonal, and this is called the Queen's Indian defense. Now David Bronstein wants to meet the bishop b7 with a bishop on g2 of his own. So g3 is played, bishop b7, and then bishop g2. So far so good, right? Now black comes in with bishop b4 check, trying to get the king before it castles. And now how would you defend? So there's knight c3 to block the bishop check. There's also knight d2, very similar move, and there's bishop d2 also blocking the check. All three of them are good or bad in their own certain ways. Bronstein goes with bishop d2, very firm move that counterattacks and attacks this bishop on b4. And so now black plays c5 and does not take this bishop, because taking would kind of give white a free development move to take back while developing their knight. So you don't want to help the white pieces, you want to keep this knight stuck and instead play c5, defending the bishop. Bishop takes, c takes would be interesting and would give a 3-on-2 for black in the endgame. I don't know how I feel about this actually. White doesn't go for this, instead he takes this pawn, and now black takes back with the bishop, creating a raise of bishops along these two diagonals that are very nicely looking for the black pieces. Now white goes with castles, and Vedder responds with castles as well. Knight c3 is played on the board, finally developing the final minor piece of this game. And here we're taking up this d5 square, trying to prevent as much as possible this d5 move. I think if d5 by black, we have this really annoying bishop g5, or even just takes first, e takes, right? And then bishop g5, just pinning this knight really boringly for black, and so I think this would force some d4 things, and quite interesting here in this position. Though after knight c3, his opponent responds with knight e4, another implicating move, before finishing the development of this knight. And that's curious to me, because this knight does not have much play in this game, and the black pieces suffer greatly from not developing even in the small details of that top corner of the position. Bronstein seeks to neutralize this knight on e4 by counter-attacking and pressuring it with queen c2. Really nice move, attacking this knight. And now if the knight takes, it's not just meh for the white pieces, we actually get a very nice bishop on this diagonal, and it's looking pretty good for us, right? So queen c2 ignites some pressure on this knight, and now black defends with an inaccuracy, f5. Actually, the engine prefers taking the bishop on d2, but f5 for now looks quite interesting. We're seeing a Dutch defense type of pawn structure from the black pieces, and if you take here, bishop takes, and I kind of like black's tempo on the queen, the imposition of the two bishops, it would be quite a nice living. So here, Bronstein goes with rook ab1, placing the rook on the semi-open d file, x-raying the queen on d8, and overall preparing for an attack. And so now, knight takes d2. The best engine move, last move, is not the best engine move, this move, because it helps a little bit more the white pieces. And this is my second question to you, the audience. What would you play against knight takes d2 here? You have several options. You have knight takes d2, you have queen takes d2, you have rook takes d2. Queen takes, you could double up on this file, but I don't love this since it's really well defended. Knight takes, definitely not. If you said knight takes d2, you should have observed that you're opening up this bishop diagonal, and after the trade on g2, your king has lost its best defender and it gets weakened. Rook takes d2 was played by David Bronstein with a surreptitious idea in mind. Here, David Bronstein wants to bring in his second rook on d1 to double on this weak file for the black pieces, and then just put a lot of pressure on it. Now black plays a6 to, I assume, prevent knight b5, but was this really threatened? Yeah, maybe. Maybe knight b5 with knight d6 was probably in the books. And so here, white goes with a3, preparing b4 here to attack the bishop and just get it away, right? It's really nicely placed. You want to just make your opponent's pieces worse. Very common theme in chess as well. Black plays queen c7, to which we go rook fd1 and complete our doubling along the d-file plan, attacking d7. It's a really nice idea because here you're also delaying the development of the black pieces. There's no knight c6 because of rook takes d7. So this knight is kind of glued to defend this d7 pawn. And so now bishop e7 is played, a preventative move against b4, attacking it. And here Bronstein could have just defended the pawn with b3, but he goes with queen b3. The engine gives this a dubious move because, yeah, you're using a full queen to defend the pawn, usually not ideal, right? And especially after rook c8. It says mistake here, but this is only a mistake because Bronstein played queen b3 with the idea to counteract specifically rook c8, the obvious move attacking this pawn a second time. David Bronstein comes up with c5. The first move of what will be a magical path to heaven. Can you find the idea? Pause the video, try to solve it. c5 gives a pawn, but much more than that. It opens up the queen diagonal on this king and pawn. I know what you're saying. Zach, the pawn's fully defended. You're not going to play queen takes d6. No. Our mission is to try to disrupt this pawn structure so that when this pawn is able to be taken, it strikes through with a check and good things can happen. Now, there are several things you cannot do against c5. Like taking it. Let's say you take it with the queen here. We have knight a4, which is a really nice, small, cute fork on this queen here. And okay, you can't just move the queen because I take and your rooks are forked. Good game, thanks for playing. And queen c4 imposing on my queen does not do you any favors as well, as I take, and then take on b6 with a similar forking pattern. How about bishop takes c5 or pawn takes c5? It's the same idea. Here, white can play the mission, the plan that we've had in mind this whole time. And that is rook takes d7. Now this didn't happen in the game, but here black can't really just take this rook back because they're just met with queen takes e6. And that's what I'm saying, take out the defender of the pawn on e6 that you want to take, which is the crux of the black position, so that this fork punches the black pieces. And now rook takes d7 is crazy, it's diabolical. You're attacking the queen, queen c6 here, and then queen f7 threatening mate. Rook here to defend, and then you're at least winning material with rook takes b7, and then the knight is coming in the game. I mean, this is completely over. Let's not even talk to them. I'm uncomfortable looking at it. So black here, instead of taking this pawn, really crazily, I guess he saw everything and this FM wants to survive a little bit longer. He plays bishop c6, a really nice move actually. It defends d7 and it's really preventative. The only issue about bishop c6 is that c5 was not only threatening rook takes d7, but it was threatening to take on b6. And now this is a free pawn tempoing this queen. Queen b7 is played here. And now Bronstein starts with the magic. I mean, the magic had already started, but now it's the magic dust, like you're seeing it in real life. And Peter Pan appears and stuff. He goes here with knight e5, the first of 5 brilliant moves, sacrificing the bishop on g2. If you don't take the bishop on g2, white racks up serious pressure on this bishop. Here we're threatening to take the bishop, and if you take with the knight, I have rook takes d7, since the knight isn't defending this anymore. So you would have to take with a pawn, and then I take the e6 pawn with the queen, and this is completely winning. Bishop takes g2 is kind of forced. You kind of have to take here. And now white goes in with their major home run idea. Although now there's just an added feature to this tactic. The knight is on e5. So the bishop c6 move you remember to defend here, it's gone. It's on g2. Bye-bye. And so now white has rook takes d7, the second brilliant move of the game. You can't take with the queen here. It's just completely over. Like, don't even think about it. If you take my rook with your knight, it's mate. It's checkmate on the board in 5 moves. You can pause and solve, or you can stay for the show. Queen takes e6 check. If the king moves here, it's checkmate at once. And if the king goes to h8, there is a very special checkmating pattern that I'm sure many of you know, but for those who don't, you're in for an absolute treat. This is called the smothered checkmate, and you can see it from a distance of 4 moves in this position. Here, white does not even care about this free knight on d7, but instead goes with knight f7 check on this king, forcing this king to the g8 square. And after the king goes here, it's a very magical spot because knight h6 double check is now inflicted. If the king goes here, it's checkmate still, or on g8 if you have a salty taste in your mouth. But the king on h8 now gives for queen g8 check, sacrificing the queen, rook takes g8, and now knight f7 checkmate. So this is all not possible to take this rook, and instead black goes even more crazy, as if the theatricals of this game were not already divine. Rook takes, oh no, bishop d5. Kind of spoiled it for you. That's the next move. Bishop d5 first, preventing all sorts of things. Here you're disrupting the train channels, right? The 2 rooks are now not connected. You're attacking the queen. I mean, so many things are happening at once. You just gotta take that bishop off the board because black are gonna prepare to take this. If you take the queen, bishop takes, and now you can take the bishop and you're up a piece. But you always have to find a better move than the easy way out. That's what chess is about. You know, you always have to upgrade yourself. It's a metaphor for life, if you will. Rook takes d5 was played here, and this is the 3rd brilliant move in 3 moves. 3 consecutive moves. You're taking the defender off the board. It's a valuable lesson today, because ultimately, it's what makes this king even more weak from move to move. Sacrificing the rook here, and if you take, I'm just winning your queen, and if you take here, I'm just winning your queen, and if you move your queen, no, your queen is trapped. I'm realizing that right now. So here black counters with, okay, my queen is trapped, I'm gonna try to attack yours. Rook takes c6, c3. A desperate move at best. Here, if you take the rook, okay, takes, but then takes, and then we'll take here, and we'll be up a piece. This is like the first calculations you make, but then when you look deeper into it, you realize that, oh no, you have not developed nor your knight, nor your rook this entire game. It's move 20. Clock has talked. And after rook takes c3, you realize that what is better than a rook attacking a queen? A rook attacking a king. Rook d8. Rook d8 check. Somehow not a brilliant move. I mean, you have 14 points of material hanging and you're sacrificing 5 more. Don't ask me what's going on here with the lack of brilliant move. Rook d8 check. If you take the rook, it's simply checkmate on the board. Back rank checkmate, you're regular. But here, black plays the best move, thankfully. Bishop f8. Blocking the check. And here we come to a very cool position. Sure, you can take here and just be completely winning, you know, with rook takes d5 and you're threatening to discover checkmate your opponent. But why do that when you're David Bronstein, you're a chess legend, and you're finding this forced mate in 5 with 2 brilliant moves to go? Here, white plays the outstanding rook takes f8. What did white do? Take out the defender. King takes. And now queen b4 check. Really nice move. You see that this diagonal is extremely weak and nothing can block this. If queen here, it's checkmate on d8. The queen is pinned from this queen. If the king moves to g8, it's the same pattern as before, rook d8 checkmate. And so king e8 is the only move. Now, it's the time for the last brilliant move of the game. I mean, already, right? Already. Can you find it? Rook d8, sacrificing yet another rook on the board to deflect the king off the defense of the f8 square. And here you are forced to take this rook. You can't do anything else. That's the beauty of chess, forcing the opponent into something magical. You're forcing them to take your sacrifice. Rook takes d8 is forced, and in this position I would love to point out to you that black is up theoretically 10 points of material. And white only has 2 pieces left, but that doesn't matter in chess. When the king is exposed, you will get doomed. Queen f8, the final coup de grace on this king is checkmate. Only possible by this pawn on b6, which is now really important, taking up c7, and this knight on e5 taking up d7. And mind you, these 2 pieces did not move all game, and this rook has fallen at the mercy of this pawn while its king is completely captured. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the analysis of the greatest game you did not know. Now you know it, and it's time for you to share it with your friends. I hope you have an amazing day. I have an amazing day. That's what I was gonna say. Thank you so much for watching. Have an amazing day, and see you soon.